Hey, are you going to be inheriting real estate and you're wondering how to take title to it for asset protection purposes and privacy? Then watch this video because I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. All right, let's get started. So here's the issue. I run into this all the time. Someone will reach out to me and they'll say, listen, I'm going to be inheriting a piece of property from my parents who have passed away, and the property right now is either in their living trust or it's tied up in probate. And I want to know, what is the best way for me to take title to this asset? Or maybe there's a couple of beneficiaries and there's 2 or 3 properties and you're wondering, how do we distribute these assets out to the beneficiaries in an efficient manner, but also in a way in which you have privacy and you have asset protection? Well, let me just show you what I'm referring to and how you want to go about doing that. So let's assume that there was an estate plan that was set up and the parents held 3 homes inside of their estate plan. And they plan to pass these on to their 2 children after they'd passed. And so right now the parents are gone and the homes are sitting right now in the living trust. And the living trust states that the 3 homes are to be distributed equally to these individuals. Now, the problem you run into in this scenario is that if you transfer title to one of these houses out to the 2 beneficiaries and you wanted to split it 50-50, then you're essentially going to make them tenants in common on the property. So you would have individual A and individual B listed on title. So the house will be passed from the name of the living trust down to the 2 children. So it would say Clint and Corey as co-tenants on the property located at 732 Broadway. And so then you would do that with the property that's on Rainier, and then you do that with the 3rd property that's on South Tacoma Way. And so now you would have 3 assets in both of our names. Now the problem with that, of course, is that if one of us is involved in a lawsuit, now that property is going to be at risk to my brother's creditor. So passing the assets directly out to the beneficiaries, I think, is a huge problem. You should not look at doing that. Now, I use the example where this was a living trust, but it does not matter. These properties could be in probate right now, and the attorney is just waiting to transfer the property over to the beneficiaries to wrap up the probate. So we want to make sure that we have asset protection. The second thing here, beyond just asset protection, is privacy. So when the property passes from our parents or from their living trust, if it was held in a living trust, let's assume that my brother here is going through a lawsuit right now, right? And he receives this property in his individual name through the estate plan. That's a public record. People will be able to see that because you have to record a deed. And when you record the deed, you show the property passes from the name of the trust to this individual right here. And so a creditor can come after those assets, or an ex-spouse if we're going through a divorce. So if you want to keep it private, because a lot of times, why do we set up living trusts? Is we want privacy. So why do we destroy that privacy when we pass away by keeping assets in that living trust name directly and then passing them on directly to our beneficiaries? It just doesn't make sense. So if you want to maintain the privacy, you cannot pass assets directly out of the estate. So here's the simple solution. What you need to do is take the assets themselves, the properties, and put them into LLCs. So in this example here, if I was going to pass these assets on to these 2 individuals here, I would create 3 separate LLCs while the assets were held in the name of the living trust, and I would move the property into the LLC. In fact, I've done this many times and working with individuals. So I'd move the property into the LLC. And when I created these LLCs, I will have set up a Wyoming Holding LLC right here. I talk about this type of entity quite a bit. And so by doing that, what happens is that each of these property LLCs now they're set up in a way in which if you look at title, you're going to see that this house is held by this Redbox LLC. Maybe this Redbox is 732 Broadway LLC. 732 Broadway is held by No One LLC. So on title, the assets went from the trust or from the decedent's name into these various limited liability companies. Now what we do is we distribute out the LLC interest to the 2 beneficiaries. That is private, meaning that if it's a living trust, it's not going to be recorded anywhere. Same with an estate plan if it's done right, or a probate. So no one will know that these 2 beneficiaries received these 3 properties because those 3 properties are held in the name of an LLC that's owned by a Wyoming blocker entity. So before you take title to assets from an estate plan, why not sit down with a planner and look at, all right, what is the best way to do this? Now, obviously, if you just wanted to sell the assets, well, then just sell them in the trust name and you can distribute out the cash proceeds. Or maybe you set up two separate LLCs. So another example of what I've done before is where people wanted to just sell the assets. What we'll do is we'll set up LLC for beneficiary A, and we'll put the properties that are to be distributed to beneficiary A in that LLC. We'll create a second Wyoming LLC for beneficiary B right here. We'll put the properties that go to beneficiary B, and then we sell them in the name of the limited liability company. So all the proceeds go into here, all the proceeds go into here, and then again, we distribute the limited liability companies to the beneficiary and not the actual cash itself. But again, all this is designed to do is maintain privacy and provide asset protection. So when the beneficiary receives the assets, they're not receiving an asset that can be attached by a judgment creditor. Because I've seen this occur before, I've read about it. What will happen is that creditors, let's say this individual here had a creditor. Well, they'll just monitor probate filings, all right? And they'll look for, all right, when is this beneficiary here entitled to receive a distribution? Because if you don't, your parents do not have a living trust and they have a will, then it's going to go into probate. That becomes public record. So once they know that that individual is about to receive some money, then they just have to wait. If they know where their bank account is, they can garnish the account. So when the funds come in, then it goes out to the creditor. So the way you prevent that is you protect it before distributing, moving it into a limited liability company. Another strategy you could use is a land trust. If you're not moving it, say it's a personal residence and you want to keep it as a family property and you don't intend to rent it out, then set up a land trust, okay, for the property and move the family property into the trust name, into the land trust with a nominee trustee, and then distribute the beneficial interest to the beneficiaries. So then you'll never have a direct transfer of assets from an estate to the beneficiaries. We're using entities to streamline the process of the transfer itself and to provide asset protection. You know, there's not a lot of people that think about transferring assets in this way. They assume that if the property was held by the parents in their direct name, then that's how it has to be distributed. But, you know, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I've worked with many people in this situation. I've found that this is oftentimes one of the simplest and best ways to pass on those assets, because not only are you passing on the assets, you're also passing on the protection. Hey, if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button. And if you want to learn more about real estate investing and tax planning, when it comes to asset protection, I'd love to have you join me on one of my upcoming tax and asset protection workshops where we go take a deep dive into protecting investment real estate, showing you the ins and outs and the strategies we've been using for over 20 years to not only protect my own portfolio, but those of our clients. I guarantee you'll leave that event in a better place. You'll learn some great ways to put more money back in your pocket. It's really simple. It's completely free. It's a one-day event packed full of information. You can get your questions answered. All you got to do is look in the show notes. There's a link in there. Click on the link, register. I look forward to seeing you there.